So we'll test again with not Scourge, but the other two. Lightning and Arcane. That was pretty darn fast. And so, Legacy of Dreams Frozen Orb. This build has been a strong contender for Nephilim Rifting for quite a while. But this season, in particular, we have new addition. Wizardspike getting an extra multiplier here. 4.5 times multiplier is going to be pretty large. On top of this, getting the chance to perform an attack to hurl a Frozen Orb. That has been a little bit tweaked. So that it will actually work a little bit better. Most impactful, I would say, for Nephilim Rifting, because the orbs that spawn from this legendary power, they don't proc area damage, and they used to have a 2-second internal cooldown, preventing them from consistently proccing. That internal cooldown has either been reduced or removed, either reduced significantly or removed, because I was able to get orbs proccing under 2 seconds for sure. And the orbs themselves that come out of the Wizardspike, they definitely hit hard in our T16 levels, which is quite nice. So it means like every few seconds you'll get a free orb, free frozen orb that'll come out and help you kill enemies. So it's kind of like a nice extra proc. That's probably the biggest change. One other change from the previous build that I was running is we can actually, this build already was using the Stone of Jordan as a legacy power because there really wasn't a better ring to put in that slot. But now there's actually a reason to run the Stone of Jordan. It's actually quite nice having the ability, since we don't have any dynamic elemental damage powers here that we're using, we're just going to stack up our static elemental bonus to skill on gear, and you can use any element as long as you're stacking the same element. You can use lightning, you can use fire, you can use cold, whatever element you want in this particular build. Now fire of course is going to be preferred because you can equip a cinder coat, at least for early paragons. Later, like when you get slightly higher paragons, I would say going for the attack speed would make the build a little bit more fluid, a little bit nicer, and you're only trading off maybe 7% DPS to, you know, when you're trading off the Cinder Coat, because we stack such high elemental damage bonuses here. We get up to a 100% elemental damage bonus, which is quite nice. But earlier, lower paragons, you can use the Cinder Coat for this extra elemental damage, and it's quite a nice addition, I think. You aren't really using the secondary here. The cost reduction isn't getting used in this particular build, but it's a nice little quirk that you can use to gear up more easily. Like you could probably find a crit amulet a little bit easier, for example, finding a Stone of Jordan that matches, you know, fairly nice. The build itself already has a lot of utility. You've got the illusory boots, able to run through enemies, the Aether Walker, of course, teleport around at will. You know, we've got the Shame of the Seer in the cube giving us that arcane power regeneration as we cast our signatures. We required to cast our signatures anyway with the triumvirate, so this kind of jives very well with the sort of style that you're going to want to use to recover your arcane power as you're moving through the rift. The Gloves of Worship, huge here, giving you that increased attack speed via the Frenzied, or increased movement speed and pickup radius via the Fleeting bonus. The Broken Crown coming in a big way here for Legacy of Dreams build. So for set-based builds, something you can usually do with a set-based build is you can swap in Canes or Sages. You wear Sages. We don't have anything like that with LoD, but what you can do is use Broken Crown and perhaps even squeeze in some gold find items. So if you wanted to, for example, swap out the Cinder Coat for the gold skin, that would also be a nice option here for running those Nephilim Rifts. Might actually recommend that as an alternate variation as well. Getting that extra gold find is always nice. Getting those extra gems is always nice too, for re-rolling your items in season, for augmentation, that sort of thing. Homing pads, also another very nice part of this build, meaning you can teleport out without having to worry about getting interrupted at all, or dying perhaps, because you get that nice damage reduction. Arrowspan, Boon of the Hoarder for mobility in between your teleports, same deal here. Illusionist, toughness from Gold Wrap, obviously this is a very glass cannon sort of build. We are running the Halo of Carini to help us out with toughness as well. Synergy with Power of the Storm, giving us reduced arcane power as well. Arcanaut for arcane power regen. And yeah, just a lot of cost reduction on shoulder piece, helmet, weapon even, giving us a nice base of arcane power cost reduction in addition to the recovery that we get from Shame of Del Seer. Going to work very well for this build. Shielding provided by Galvanizing Ward, deflection to help keep your Squirt's Necklace active. And yeah, so let's go back to that Cinder Coat. And anyway, yeah, it's just a very well-rounded build. I kind of feel quick clearing, and one of the cool things that you can actually do this season is you don't necessarily have to run Frozen Orb. You can run like same build, same everything, but swap in Spark. So the lightning rune, you can actually lob these electrified orbs up, and it's not quite as I wouldn't say it's quite as good as Frozen Orb, but it's very close. So as you stack on more Paragon and more augmentations, I say Spark becomes more of an option, because the instant zaps that this rune does will start to one-shot mobs in T16 with all the extra multipliers that we fit in. And that's when it becomes very, very appealing, because you can just, you know, go up to enemies, spark them, rather than having to wait for the Frozen Orb to reach your target, that sort of thing. So they're both appealing options, and the cool thing is that Spark will actually work, because you'll still get the damage from the free Frozen Orbs, because you have, again, the Stone of Jordan here, increasing our elemental damage the same amount that would be for a lightning rune, for example. And it doesn't matter what rune you have on your gear, you know, as long as it's matched up, right? So anyway, yeah, super excited to actually play Spark in season. That'll be a lot of fun. A great change of pace, in fact. As far as other passive here, I chose Audacity because it felt like there were situations in the Rift that I got cornered into just channeling directly, or sorry, casting my Frozen Orb or my Spark, and I was right next to them. So in those cases, I felt like Audacity was the best passive here. But if you don't like that choice, you can definitely put in Blur for more toughness, Astral Presence for more arcane power pool, regen, Dominance would be a good passive here for the extra shielding, I think. So there are a lot of alternate options. Even if you want to go more DPS, you could go Power Hungry or Elemental Exposure, that sort of thing. So there are a lot of passive options, and I would say if there was anyone you were going to swap out, it would be this slot here. So just keep that in mind. We are running the Wormhole rune as well on Teleport, getting those quick double jumps. Very huge here for mobility, reducing the GCD down to 0, basically, for 1 out of every 2 teleports is going to get you through the Rift all that much quicker. Anyway, just such a fun build to play with a lot of different options, very configurable. Super happy to try it out in season.